Some people think luxury is the opposite of poverty. It's not. It's the opposite of vulgarity. Or so thought Coco Chanel. And if anyone knew anything about stylish, elegant good living, she did. And now you can too. Hello, my name is Alison Cummin and you're welcome to Luxury News Television. Here on Luxury News TV, we'll be hearing the latest from the design houses on their new ranges, their inspirations and what sets them apart from the rest. But it doesn't stop there. You have an open invitation to see some of the most beautiful houses, palazzos, health spas and golf clubs in the world, a permanent reservation at the top restaurants and hotels, and carte blanche to visit the great winemakers and step on board some of the most beautiful yachts you'll ever see. Once the preserve of only the seriously wealthy, now is your chance to experience just how the other half live and to hear from the style makers themselves. And we'll also find out just who enjoys this type of luxury every day of their lives, because that's what it's all about. Sheer, Epicurean, hedonistic, opulent enjoyment. That's Luxury News Television. Well, coming up on this programme, we take a look at the V12 Vanquish, Aston Martin's latest venture. Plus, we get the first ever television interview with the designer himself, Callum, and also find out from CEO Dr. Ulrich Bez what the future holds for the company. We get fashion tips from the top as Selfridges buyers Rebecca Farah-Hockley and Hazel Curry talk us through next season's must-haves. Christian Dior has seen some changes over the years, not least its latest venture under the watchful eye of Victoire de Castellane. We found out how formality has been replaced by playfulness while still using the most beautiful of jewels. And ever since its renovation, the Georges V in Paris has really enjoyed the sweet smell of success. Luxury News talks to the talented florist who has turned this almost legendary hotel from the truly special to the truly magical. But first, that treat, whether you're a car enthusiast or not. Luxury News has been given an exclusive look at the V12 Vanquish, Aston Martin's latest car and its most technologically advanced to date. Plus, its designer Callum, who's normally quite reserved, has granted us his first ever television interview. He tells Tanya James where he got the inspiration for his car and what he thinks is in the future for Aston Martin.
Joining me now is Callum, and he is the brains behind the styling of this fantastic brand new Aston Martin Vanquish. Now, thank you for joining us. I want you to tell me, you've got your pencil and paper in your hand. How long does it take to get from the paper to this finished result?
Well, in this case, we started the car off as a show car, and we had to do it very quickly. So from pencil to the finished shape actually only took us 7 weeks. And we then developed the show car for the 1998 Detroit show. We produced a show car, and of course the car was well received, and after that we felt almost obliged to make it. So, but that was a very, very quick time. And then after we did that, we had to produce a real car from a concept car, which is much more difficult, and that actually, in terms of shape and form, took us as long as 15 to 20 weeks. But again, that's a very short time. Quite often it can take years. And when I was asked to do this car, it was almost, even as a show car, it was to be seen as almost a replacement for the V car, which is the big muscle car I'm talking about. And there were certain aspects of that car I felt was slightly overt, so I wanted to bring some of the gentility of the DB7 into this, but not lose its presence. That was very important. It had to have muscle. And really I think the combinations work quite well. And it shouldn't be mistaken for DB7 either, of course. It should be a little bit more overt, more aggressive, less gentle, and look very powerful. It has a lot of presence. It really has a lot of presence in the road.
I noticed that the interior is quite different. It used to be sort of all wood and leather, and it's now sort of quite contemporary with metal.
If you look at the history of Aston, I mean, I've been a great fan for Aston since I was a young boy, and I really understand where the Aston heritage comes from. And if you look at the original heritage of Aston Martin through the DB4, 5 and 6 range especially, and even prior to that, they're actually quite raw sports cars. I mean, yes, they're luxury cars, but they were performance cars, and the interiors, although they had leather because that was the standard thing at the time, were actually very simple and very much a case of this is a statement of honesty. And we wanted to recapture some of this in this car. Now, Aston went through a period of using lots of leather and wood, and we still use lots of leather, naturally, Conley leather. But I wanted to get back to that honesty and that integrity. And really the basis of this interior is giving the impression of the structure of the car, because structurally it's fascinating. And I wanted to give more of an architectural, more of an honest feel to it. So the wood's gone, there's no more wood.
No more wood. And
we're into aluminium, we're into high-tech materials, and still a feeling of warmth, still inviting, but just a feeling of something a little bit more sophisticated.
Now I notice in the interior there is something missing for the first time, I believe, for Aston, and that's the gear stick, because it's a Formula One stick or something. What is it?
Well, there are paddles on the steering wheel. These are the things that actually change the gears now, and it's very much part of the racing scene in Formula One cars. It means you can change gear quicker, and that's what they do, and they're right behind the steering wheel, and right down to detail how these things feel, and the tactile feel of them, the way they operate is very important, and they just give a completely different sensation for driving the car. So the gear lever's gone, and everything happens up off the wheel.
When did you know that you wanted to design a car?
I decided I wanted to design cars when I was 5 years old, and I became, I remember it's 5 because it was before I went to school, and I became acutely aware of the fact that this Hoover my mother was using looked extremely old and ugly. It probably wasn't that old, but I just was aware of the fact there was an aesthetic in it which I didn't approve of, and I thought somebody must have created that. Now, how could I get involved? And then within the same week, I saw my first Porsche 356, and I thought, what a wonderful machine. And I realised somebody must have created that, and at that point, I decided to be a car designer.
The car is the feeling, the car is the character, the car is the impression to you, how it speaks to you. This is the noise, this is the vibrations. I'm not saying these are bad vibrations, but these are really good vibrations, and the noise and the feeling of the steering and the acceleration. It's much more important than the figures.
So what's unique about Aston and the way it's built? What is it actually made from?
The body is out of carbon fiber, carbon fiber tunnel, carbon fiber front structure, rear structure, carbon fiber A-pillar, really functional part, not like in a lot of other cars where you have a carbon fiber blending for whatever interior part, which has actually no function. With us, this is real, this function. And all this is then put together with aluminum structure. It's bonded together with processes which are known from aircraft industry, and this makes the car, the body of the car, very stiff, makes it very strong, and which is very important, it gives the car inner beauty. So the car is at least as beautiful from inside as it is from outside, and I think this is really something very important for this car. Of course, you could not see it, but you know it, and knowing is sometimes better than anything else.
What kind of people buy Aston Martins?
I think that's a very easy answer. People who deserves it, and it's very often people who worked for 20 years of their life very hard. They earn it and they deserve it to own an Aston Martin. They are of course a part of our company. They are a part of the brand. Our brand is not a customer. He's somewhere and there's a car. And this we are the company. No, the value of our brand is that we have a partnership between the buyer or the owner, the product, and our heritage and our person who are dedicated to this. So we are more like an art object. We are always, the artist is very important, and somebody who likes it, who likes the object. This is what an Aston Martin is. So this is how we have integration of the customer in our definition.
Dr. Ulrich Bez, thank you ever so much for talking about the Aston Martin Vanquish. Thank you.
You know, sometimes I find it difficult to decide what clothes to wear tomorrow, never mind trying to decide for next year. But thankfully that's a task that many of us don't have to do. But for the two top buyers in Selfridges, Rebecca Farah-Hockley and Hazel Curry, it's up to them to decide what the likes of you and me will be choosing off the rails up to 12 months in advance. So who better to get designer fashion tips and those ideas how to copy the catwalk looks than from these two girls.
I think it's going to be certainly a very interesting season fashion-wise. I think it's going to be very complicated. There certainly isn't one clear trend that we can say is going to be key. There's many different influences.
Yeah, I think the brands also are doing lots of different things. There isn't one key brand this season, but I think at least that makes it interesting from a customer's perspective. I mean, one brand that you can talk about as being moving on really from last season is Burberry.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult this season to be wearing the Burberry check if you're into fashion, because everybody knows that Burberry check was one of the key looks from last season. But what's interesting about Burberry is this season they've almost realised that themselves, and they've moved on very much, and they've started doing some very interesting new prints and patterns and some new concepts that have moved themselves on. Have you seen the new camouflage?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting about that is that they use their traditional colours, you know, the red, the khaki, the black, and rework it into a different print. So I think with the camouflage, particularly as camouflage is so strong, Dior, we've seen at Ralph Lauren last season, I think that makes it a nice new way and a little bit more cutting edge and not so obvious, which I think is nice.
Exactly, but it's clever the way that they've kept the colours in, so there's still a hook for the customers to understand. So they've kept the beige with the red and the black. They've also used it in some paisley prints as well.
Yes.
So it's the same idea of the Burberry house colours, but used in a different way. Also, something that's very interesting now, I think, is for people to start wearing the old Burberry checks again, because they did update their check, and that new paler check is the one that everybody's seen.
Yeah, it's the
Posh
Victoria
Spice
Beckham, isn't it?
and Nicole Appleton wearing and so on. Whereas the older, more original check has now got a more of a vintage feel about it.
Yeah, I think that looking back to how the real things were, I think is a less obvious way to do it. And I think what we'll find is that the new check that they call Nova is perhaps starting to be a little less popular, and people want the original one in the original shapes as well.
Yes.
I mean, obviously Burberry have put a lot of the, particularly with handbags, new, more modern shapes in, but perhaps it's better to look at the more vintage shapes as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I really liked with Burberry was the use of the gold stripe instead of the red on the check. I think you've got that in some clothing.
Yes. Yeah, there's a great boob tube where you would have originally imagined the red line in the check to be. They've replaced it with gold, which gives it this really luxurious feel.
And you've got that in swimwear, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the swimwear collection in a big way. And that works really well, especially with gold being a bit of a key trend still.
Yeah, I think what the customer's got to be aware of, these are the things that are going to have very limited production, and we're going to be back to the same story as the Nova headscarf last year was, and those things are going to sell out really quickly.
Yeah, but there's an element of fun in that. I think people quite enjoy the fact that they have to race to get these things. They might have to go on a waiting list, because when they do get it, then they have something that's really very special.
Yeah. I think the other thing also that's nice is that they've expanded the collection, so it's not just about clothing and bags. The shoe offer is much bigger.
Yeah.
And the quirky accessories, whether it be dog bowls or dog leads. Knickers, yeah, bikinis.
Yeah.
It's quite a good way to be able to buy into it without having to spend a fortune.
Absolutely.
Which I think is good.
Next, on to a genuine French legend. After 2 years, $125 million and a lot of hard work, the Georges V in Paris reopened its doors in December 1999 to a huge roar of approval. But they also had a little secret weapon up their sleeve in the guise of Jeff Leatham. Jeff has become a bit of a florist du jour to visiting celebrities to Paris. And Tanya James went there to find out what has made these flowers so special. that has turned the Georges V from something truly special into something truly magical.
You're the man behind these stunning flower arrangements in Georges V Hotel. Tell us, you have an interesting story because you didn't actually start out as a flower designer, did you?
I was modeling for 4 years, and I would only say this because I discovered flowers while I was modeling. So I would start coming to Europe, and that's when I really had such a passion for coming to Europe. And I would come, you know, twice a year for 4 years. And my last year, actually, in Paris, I was walking down the street. I was living in Paris for a couple months. I was walking down the street, and I stumbled into a flower shop in Avenue Montaigu in Etienne Marcel. And that's the day that changed my life. I saw a rose it was a black rose. And I stayed in that flower shop for 2 hours. And I was late for my casting for Terre Mugler, and I didn't care. And I stayed there for 2 hours, and when I left that shop, I said, you know what? This is what I want to do with my life.
Okay, so the Georges V, they phoned you up about the contract here. What happened?
The first thing I wanted to do was to give this hotel a soul. And I think that's important for me in my everyday job is this hotel does have such a soul. This hotel has so much history. So many people have walked through these corridors of this hotel, and I just want to add to that. The hotel had been closed for so long that I wanted to open it and put flowers that was like a celebration.
Fresh start.
And in Paris, believe it or not, the hotels are so beautiful and they're so grand, but the flowers are very understated, which is fine for the hotels, but for Paris being such a cutting-edge city, I wanted to do something totally different with color and design, which it should be. I mean, Paris is what they sort of say the fashion capital of the world. So in the beginning, I was more, you know, timid, but not timid enough. I mean, I gave it a lot because in the beginning, if you do it a lot, they'll get used to it. And I think it's in the beginning is when people started saying, wow, can you believe those
Guests
flowers in
coming
that
in
hotel?
saying the flowers are amazing.
Yeah, you know, because flowers bring peace and happiness. And I think that's why people do flowers in their home, because it's very therapeutic, you know, to do flowers. And then each night at 6 o'clock in the hotel, I try not to waste any flowers. So when a rose or a flower has faded a bit, instead of putting it in the trash, I save all the petals. And every night at 6 o'clock, I put petals and candles out in the hotel. So it's a total different experience, because at night you feel mischievous and you feel sexy and you feel different. And I want the guests to feel that, and I want the guests to have a different experience also. And it's funny, we have this kind of groupie following now in Paris who just come to look at the flowers other than the guests. It's become quite this huge experience, which is pretty incredible, but I love the fact that people appreciate beauty.
So what does inspire you?
Life, most of all, my life on an everyday basis, walking down the street, looking at a sky, especially in Paris, looking in designer windows at colors and fabrics. Walking in parks, I mean, an inspiration sometimes is not something that comes very easy for anybody, I don't think. And there's times when you have inspirational blocks, especially for an artist. So that's when you have to kind of break down and go on a 2-day vacation or read a great book, or, you know, just walk around the city. So in Paris, it's a lot more easy for me to do this than it was in Los Angeles, because I feel like I live my dream every day in Paris, really. For myself to come here and touch people's lives on a daily basis, it's a beautiful thing. It's quite a beautiful thing.
So where do you get all these beautiful flowers from, and what kind of amounts do you have to buy?
100% of my flowers come from Amsterdam, all of them from Aalsmeer, through a friend of mine who's a flower broker, if you, for lack of a better word. And I order flowers 3 times a week from him, usually ranging from each order being from 4,000 to 5,000 stems. And so by the end of the week, number-wise with flowers, it usually ends up being no less than 9,000 to 15,000, depending on if I have a party in the hotel or what my theme is for that week.
9,000 to 15,000 a week?
Stems of flowers, yeah.
Stems of flowers.
Yeah, definitely. Because, for example, sometimes I'll order 4,000 to 5,000 of one rose. For this week, for example, it's all yellow in the hotel, so I'll need, for example, I guess it was 2 days ago, I ordered 3,500 of all one yellow rose. But we supply flowers in the lobbies, in the banquet areas, in the restaurant, for room service, for the bar, for VIP rooms. There's 243 rooms in this hotel, and every room has a flower in it.
You've got your hands full.
So we have our hands full. I have a staff of 7.
7.
We work 7 days a week, you know, full days, but good days. I have 2 rules with my staff. One, that we are like a family, and that you always have passion. Passion is so important. Passion makes the hair on my arm stand up. When I said that, it just does. Passion is so important in life. And when you lack passion, it's time to move on, you know. And
You've
I
got to
think,
love what you're doing to
you
do
have
well.
to love what you do. And for me, it's just really what just pushes me on a daily basis is passion.
Christian Dior's designs certainly have taken a bit of a turn from the formality of previous years, and the latest designs, under the watchful gaze of tastemaker Victoire de Castellane, certainly are a lot more playful and colourful, some of the jewels being as bright as a candy store. Plus, there's also a real showstopper, a lily of the valley necklace encrusted with diamonds, pearls and 3,000 beautiful emeralds. And it also contains a bit of a secret that we'll find out.
The hottest spot to acquire some simply stunning jewellery is right here at Christian Dior, situated on Avenue Montaigne. Now, Dior's jewellery designer, Victoire de Castellane, has a unique style. It's sophisticated and it's also sexy too. Now, Victoire has a big personality, and that means there's nothing ordinary in this boutique. It's either big and vibrant and colourful, or it's really rather small and dainty, nothing in between. Victoire spent 14 years designing costume jewellery at the House of Chanel before joining forces with Dior to become their little gem. Now, Victoire, this is a very special piece, isn't it? Tell us about this one.
It's the emblematic flower of Dior. It's the lily of the valley,
Right.
with all the emeralds and pearls and diamonds. And the idea was something completely transparent and also really in live. I love the idea of a woman who take a flower and put around her neck, and I make a little clin d'oeil. It's the little bee with, you know, a symbolic identity of Dior.
Gosh,
And
tiny little bee.
Yes, with yellow gold and diamonds.
Yes.
And the woman who is wearing the necklace is she only knows that there is the little bee inside. So it's a little secret.
Oh.
I love that, and I love also, you know, to make flexible jewelry who are moving, and because I don't like things who are very difficult
Rigid.
to. Yes,
yeah,
exactly,
yes,
rigid.
it's
I don't
uncomfortable,
like that.
It digs in. doesn't it?
Exactly. So
Lovely.
voilà.
Now, I believe you normally wear
Yes.
odd earrings. Is
Yes.
this a trend you've started?
Yes, little ladybirds.
Oh, beautiful, yes.
So you have one with
Ladybirds.
the open L,
Ah.
and the
They're
other
just-
is closed with
Oh, yes, of course. They're just
Yes.
ever so slightly
exactly.
different, aren't
So
they?
I
Each
like,
one?
you know, charming stories, and I don't like when everything is symmetrical. I like something different.
So I see you also design watches as well.
It's the
Beautiful.
first watch of jewelry called V, and you have the 4 letters of DIOR with diamonds.
Oh, I can just see that.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
it's very
amazing.
discreet,
Wow.
and the idea is the bracelet who is giving the hour.
Ah. So you don't call them a watch.
Exactly,
Very
I
slick.
call it, it's the jewelry who is giving the hour.
And what is the face made of?
It's mother of pearl.
Mother of pearl?
Yes, gold mother of pearl.
Yes, because normally you think of mother of pearl as
It's
being, I guess,
white,
white mother of
exactly.
pearl, white grey.
No, no, you can find it also in those color of yellow, gold.
Gosh.
It depends of the mother of pearl, exactly.
Okay,
So
lovely.
I like it really flexible, you know, it's very supple.
So these are the asymmetrical earrings. Tell me about these.
So here you have the ladybug of the
Those
day.
are the ones you have on. Oh, right.
And here you have ladybug of the night with diamond and pink
diamonds.
sapphire. So with the open and close.
Okay.
The little navet. I don't know it's radish or
Radish or turnip.
yes, exactly. You can see all the colors have different green. So nobody has the same really.
They're
I
very
love this
subtle.
idea. Exactly.
Very subtle.
So here all the little creole who are moving
Mm-hmm.
with pearls, diamonds.
That's lovely.
I love poetic story, you know.
Mm.
And I also love to have fun when I create the jewelry because I love to make stories. Here you have the mid-ring. So it's citrine and lac.
It's
Enamel.
animal. Oh yes,
Animal.
animal skin.
Yes,
I was going to
animal
point
skin
out
and
that
also the
beautiful.
little four petite
Oh,
griffes.
claws.
Yes.
Oh, that is really good, isn't it? What you've got, of course, is the claws.
Yes.
In England, of course,
Like
we say
a
claws hold the diamond in,
Mm.
and this is actually the claws of the animal holding the stone in, which is really fantastic.
Like
That's
a
very clever.
surrealistic.
That's really, really good.
And well, amethyst also in the Dior head. Here you have the DIOR, who are the
the Dior
letters.
again, yes.
Yes.
Well, Victoire, thank you ever so much for showing us around
Thank
the
you.
creme de la creme of your gems, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
And that's just about it for this edition of Luxury News Television, but we do have plenty more for you coming up in the next programme, including a behind-the-scenes look at how they make those handmade exquisite shoes for ladies, Gina Shoes. I'll be getting some personal shopping and style advice from the exclusive family-run fashion house in London, Browns of South Molton Street. Not to be outdone by the ladies, I also hear the story behind those gents' shoes, Berlutis, from their London shop. Also, Simon Biaggi will be visiting the largest European dealership of Rolls-Royce and Bentley in Jack Barclays in London. That's all coming up in the next programme. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Information about this and other programmes featured on the Magazine Showcase channel is available on the Magazine Showcase website. Simply log on to www.magazineshowcase.tv.